The name Bobroff was for many years associated with good legal advice for road accident victims. Remember those adverts? But then, in 2016, warrants of arrest were issued for father and son, Ronald and Darren. It's alleged they fleeced their road accident clients of over 100 million rand that they then siphoned into overseas bank accounts. Now, instead of standing trial, the Bobroffs fled to Australia. In response, the alleged ill-gotten gains were frozen. The Bobroffs have since been fighting to get that money returned, but now they've recently exhausted their last chance and unsuccessful appeal to the Constitutional Court. They've now forfeited about 95 million rand to the state. There's no extradition treaty between us and Australia. The Bobroffs say they're prepared to return to South Africa to stand trial, but only if the NPA can guarantee they will not be put in jail while they're standing trial. Well, I'm joined now by the Bobroffs lawyer, Richard Spoor. Richard, I have to ask you this question before we go into the Bobroff detail. You are a name synonymous with human rights. You're fighting another big case as we speak, and you're known for fighting for the poor and forgotten. Why are you representing the Bobroffs?
I think once in a while, well, consistently, you take up hopeless cases. You take up cases on behalf of people who are marginalized, who are shunned, who are distanced from society. And I'm afraid the Bobroffs are part of that. I mean, they've been slandered, libeled. They are the archetypal attorney who fleeces his clients, as you introduced it. I brought into this matter late, but I'm persuaded that they've been railroaded, that what has been done to them is really unjust. I don't doubt that they've made mistakes on their own part. And the most serious of those mistakes is to flee the country, and they should have stayed and confronted these charges.
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying, if they're innocent, they should have stayed and stood trial, surely.
They absolutely should have done that, and I have no doubt that if they had, it would have turned out differently. I think when they fled the country, the vultures descended. It was open season on the Bobroffs, and I think they are paying the price for that. So, it's a case that I think is worthwhile. I think these are people who've been hard done by the justice system. I think it's people who deserve a fairer shake.
100 million rand is a lot of money to get out of looking after road accident victims. I mean, are you suggesting that was money lawfully obtained?
Yes, it was. It's an interesting kind of backstory here, but the Israeli government the Israeli banks preyed on patriotic Jewish people, saying to them, look, put your money in Israel, you support the Zionist cause, etc., etc. It was a good, very successful firm. It generated substantial profits, and this money was moved to Israel. With the aid, aided and abetted not only by Israeli banks, but the Israeli diplomatic authorities in South Africa who moved the money there. The money was invested in the UK, it's in Israel. It's money's profits from their very successful business. And what's important, 2 points I think I wish to make is, first of all, it's not correct that all of this money has been taken back to South Africa. A large chunk of it, the biggest chunk of it, has been seized by the Israeli authorities. What they did is they threatened to deport Ronald Bobroff's son, Darren, from Australia, apply for his extradition, unless he agreed to sign over a big chunk of this money to the Israeli authorities. What the South Africans have is what's left.
Which is what?
It's not as big a success. I'm not sure of the numbers, but I guess it's less than a third of what they originally seized. The rest has been grabbed by the Israeli government.
So probably the South African government's got about maybe 30 million and the Israelis around 90 million.
Yeah. So, as part of the deal,
60 million. Yeah.
As part of the deal, the Bobroffs also got a share. It was an extortionate agreement.
Right.
The Israelis put extortionate pressure on them and extracted their pound.
I want to ask you about the statement attributed to you that the Bobroffs saying they're prepared to come back and stand trial in South Africa, but only
Australia was not willing to extradite people to face imprisonment here. Ronald Bobroff is an old man. He's not particularly healthy. You know, and the key thing here is there is no case against him. There is nothing in the papers that discloses that he's guilty of any crime. So the request that he's willing to come back and face trial, provided he be released on bail and not be held in custody in a prison under inhuman conditions, which characterize our prisons, is fair and reasonable. And if the NPA seriously wish to do that, well, they should concede to the simple demand. If you come back voluntarily, you're not a flight risk.
Well, he is a flight risk because he fled once before, in a way. I have to ask you, though, where are we going next? This has been since 2016. Constitutional Court recently sort of ruled no way you can get the money back. What's going to happen next? What do you think is going to happen next, and what are you preparing for next?
It's a difficult situation because the Constitutional Court refused leave to appeal to it on the basis of jurisdictional grounds. It said, look, this issue isn't important enough to occupy our time and our energies. And therefore, the SCA judgment stands. The SCA judgment is, in my honest opinion, bad. The High Court decision that preceded it is bad and contradicts it. It's very unfortunate the Constitutional Court refused to hear him. At the moment, I'm looking for some basis to get a rehearing by the SCA or the High Court, looking for some grounds to achieve some kind of justice for them. But I don't deny it's really challenging.
Fascinating. Thank you very much. Richard Spoor, he's lawyer for the Bobroff family.